what can I do more? Or is there anything I can do more to be of service to our fellow Filipinos?
This episode is brought to you by
Hi everyone, I'm Mic Diaz and I'm here at the Philippine Consulate in Los Angeles. And right next to me is the Honorable Philippine Consul General Edgar Badajos. Hi ConGen,
Hi,
how are you
morning, baby.
doing?
Welcome to the Consulate. It's good to see you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes.
And so let's get right down to the interview.
Okay.
So why did you choose to work in foreign affairs?
Okay, so it's a long story actually. I was then, before DFA, I was actually working in the Senate, Philippine Senate, for Miriam Santiago, and one of my tasks was to, of course, draft bills that will eventually become laws, legislation. And in my private moments, I would reflect on what really is my contribution to the community and Philippine society in general. And if you will look further back, you will see in my resume that I actually come from a family of overseas Filipino workers. So I was sent to college by my three elder brothers. That was, and then it was 1995 when we read about the case of Flor Contemplacion in Singapore, where a fellow Filipino of ours was hanged for allegedly murdering two individuals under her care. So that moment opened my eyes as to what can I do more, or is there anything I can do more to be of service to our fellow Filipinos? Because just writing proposed legislation may not be enough, right? You're just working in the background, in the shadows of somebody else. And so I decided, why don't I join the Foreign Service? Because at the time, um, the overseas Filipino workers really were now in the forefront of Philippine foreign policy. We needed to do more to help them. And I thought of my brothers who were still working in Saudi Arabia at that time. So I said, maybe there's something that I can do also to be of greater service to overseas Filipino workers, including my own brothers in Saudi Arabia, right? So that's when I decided to join the Philippine Foreign Service. Yeah. So, which brings me to the three pillars of Philippine foreign policy, which are number one, protecting the country's political and security interests. Number two, protecting the country's economic interests. And number three, which is the point I was trying to make earlier, is protecting our overseas Filipinos, primarily our overseas Filipino workers. And so that is why I decided in the mid-90s to join the Foreign Service. That way, maybe I can do more to help our fellow Filipinos.
So in deciding to work in foreign service, did you ever think about your family and sort of giving back to your brothers as overseas Filipino workers?
Yeah, of course. That was at the back of my mind because, being able to work in the Foreign Service and eventually being assigned overseas to serve our overseas Filipino community, which is now more than 10 million strong. That's a way of actually giving back, not to my brothers in particular, but to the overseas Filipino community in general. Anything that you can do to help them, to protect them while they're working overseas. That's one thing that incomparable in terms of value.
I know you've been assigned to Thailand and Jeddah. So what is it like living in Jeddah or Thailand?
It is, well, let's start with Jeddah. So Jeddah is so different from where we are right now because if you're talking of Saudi Arabia, you will of course know first and foremost that it's where you will find overseas Filipino workers in the true sense of the word. These are Filipinos who pass through our Philippine Overseas Employment Administration to be able to work for various employers in Saudi Arabia. And these are mostly skilled and semi-skilled workers. who really need the assistance of our government in the workplace. Because I'm not saying that there's a problem with the labor laws of that host country. It's just that there's a lot of work that you need to do in terms of really protecting the rights of our workers in the workplace, especially our what we call the household helpers, the domestic workers. Because unlike here, where you find a lot of social support and even non-governmental organizations that are ready to help workers who are in problematic situations. Saudi Arabia, it's different. It's really your government, our government, that must be in the forefront to protect the rights and interests of our Filipino workers. In Thailand, it's also different because in Thailand, whereas if in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, for example, you have close to 300,000 Filipino workers. In Thailand, there are only about maybe 15,000 at that time, not too big. And most of them are working as English teachers. So in terms of the kinds of problems that I encounter, it's not as much as you would find in Saudi Arabia. In Los Angeles, you don't have that kind of problem. You don't receive phone calls every day, like what happened to me in Saudi Arabia, where you receive phone calls every minute, every hour, every day, 7 days a week, from workers pleading for assistance, for intervention from the Philippine government to rescue them from abusive employers, from working conditions that are not so desirable. Here, you don't see that problem. Here in California, the usual problem is how to budget our time because you have so many parties.
And that's a good problem, right?
It's a good problem to have.
That's
It's
a
not
good problem
actually a
to have.
problem. It's not a problem. Maybe you, well, not only you, but many of our fellow Filipinos are wondering, why is it that the Consul General keeps on going to parties? I see him in so many parties, like every weekend. He's always going to parties, like he enjoys partying so much. Well, the answer really is that we don't go there so much to eat good food or to make small talk with our fellow Filipinos. We go there to get a sense of what is going on in our community. We go there to listen to you, to the Filipinos on the ground. We listen to you, we talk to you so that you can tell us what is it that we need to do, or what is it that you need us to do more so that we can improve our services. We also go to you to listen so that we can convey your sentiments to our government back home, right? So that the government can also maybe adopt programs and services to make life even better for your relatives who are left back home, and also to make your next visit to the Philippines even more enjoyable, right? So there's a higher purpose why we attend so many parties.
Yes.
So partying here is not so much a problem. It's not. And I actually don't take it against our fellow Filipinos here if you party so much. Like Mick goes to a lot of parties, like
And I see ConGen all the time.
like Friday pa lang, Mick, you already see her here, there, everywhere. I don't take it against you and to our fellow Filipinos. Why? Because I can see how hard you're working here, right? I know of many of our fellow Filipinos who have to take on 2, 3 jobs just to make both ends meet, right? And therefore, if you have to party, go to events, that's just your way of rewarding yourself for the hard work that you're doing. And that's also your way of, it's a form of therapy so that you're not lonely or you don't feel so much stress because of the kind of work that you do here. And so to me, it's a welcome thing. It's mutually beneficial to us because it's a way of getting to know our community better, and to you because that's your way of relaxing, so that next week when you go back to work, you feel refreshed, right, and
Mm-hmm.
even more excited to work again, and the end result of that is you are very productive and are contributing so much to this community, to this country that you're in, and also you're able to continue sending a much needed financial assistance, not just to your families, but to our country in general.
I know you were also assigned to New York.
Yes, and
And
Toronto.
what kinds of things did you see that our fellow kababayans were doing to help our constituents back in the Philippines?
Okay, so it's just like also what is happening here. Although we see a lot of our fellow Filipinos organizing so many events and parties left and right almost every weekend, all year round, they're not doing this just for the sake of partying or having fun. They're actually doing this for a higher purpose, which is to, in many cases, raise funds to help target beneficiaries back home, to help communities to send children, deserving children, to school, to help the elderly, the physically challenged. There are so many things that I saw that too in New York. So whatever is being done here by many of our Filipinos here, you also see that going on or taking place in New York as well as in Toronto, where also was assigned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so when you were young, were you ever an organizer
I was
or a
actually
leader?
good that you asked that because when I was in college
Mm-hmm.
at the University of the Philippines, Baguio campus, I was actually a student leader. I was in the student council from freshman to senior year. And in our senior year, that was 19, edit the year so that they will not know how old I am. I was actually the chairman of the student council
Mm-hmm.
of our college, and that was the height of the all these protests against the previous regime. So I was the student council chairman, and at the same time in Diliman, our former Senator Kiko Pangilinan was also the chairman of the student council. So the UP System Student Council at one time met in Diliman, and all the chairmen of the student councils gathered in that place. So I was there with Kiko and many other student council chairmen of all the UP colleges all over the country. So yes, I was into student organizing.
Mm-hmm.
I was very active. Yeah.
What was the impetus for you to actually join the student council? Was there anything that did you ever think like, oh, I just want to join because I
No, no,
just
no,
want to
no,
be active? Or
no. It's not also like that. No, it's just for the sake of running for a position as a freshman representative or second sophomore or junior or senior representative. No, I saw that the student body needed to be more active and more vocal about
mm-hmm.
fighting for their rights and interests as a body vis-a-vis the administration of the government. And therefore, during my time, we were very vocal in expressing the really the needs, the interests of the students. How can this be addressed by the school administration? So it was during my time as student council chairman that we were able to do a lot of projects, physical projects, to really improve the campus of the UP College Baguio, which is now an autonomous university, not just a college anymore, but a
Mm-hmm.
full-fledged university of the UP system.
During that time, what was happening here in the States? That was the start of the free speech movement,
Yeah.
especially at UC Berkeley, and
Okay.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
and I'm not like dating. You're like
Mm,
trying to put a date, but that's what happened like
okay.
during that time. For our viewers there, like in terms of students, like what would be your advice? Like if I mean, because that was the time that's the time when a lot of young people,
Yeah.
especially in college, want
Yeah.
to do something
Correct.
about
Yeah,
their
yeah.
lives
Yeah.
within the college setting.
Yeah. Advice really is that if and when you go to college, you have to understand that many of the things that you will eventually need to survive in the real world, in the outside world, you will not learn them only within the four corners of the classroom. You have to open your mind. You have to widen your horizon. You have to participate in non-academic activities, a lot of extracurricular activities. Involve yourself in campus politics. Uh, Debate a lot with your fellow students. Engage in discussions, substantive discussions, because that's how you learn. You will need all this when you go out of the campus. Uh, it's not enough, I think, that you just go to school and go home in the evening and study again and then go to school the following day. It is necessary for you to expose yourself to other experiences, just like what I did. Student organizing, I think, helped me a lot to prepare me for the challenges of the real world, the outside world, because it's so different when you go out already, right? You cannot just erase your mistakes in the outside world, right? Unlike in the classroom, that I made a mistake, I have to correct it. Can I change my answer? That doesn't happen.
For a lot of younger people, what you're saying is very true for a lot of young people, especially in grade school and high school. They're really there to study and
Yeah,
get good grades,
yeah.
right? And so when you were younger, when you were a lot younger, did you ever think of being in student government? Did you ever think of wanting to do so much more than what you were already doing?
I think it also has to do with your psychological makeup. Even from the young age, I think any person should have a gut feel of what is it that you really want to do in life. Even at a young age, modesty aside, even when I was very young, I had already this feeling that I cannot just be confined within where I am now. That I am really destined to do higher things, better things than what I've seen around me currently. I'm seeing around me when I was still young. And I felt that I had the capacity, the talent to do something more. That was probably the main reason. There was that inner feeling, inner motivation that I think I'm meant to do something great, something like that. It's not like you're born and you have this consciousness and you begin to attend school and then you just feel like this is something that I do as a matter of course. I mean, it's just too ordinary. You just have to finish this, then I go to school and college. And after that, I work and then I get married. That's it, right? You have to have some gut feel that there's this higher calling that you need to answer. Something like that, yeah.
Would you say that you're living your dream from when you
I
were
would
younger?
say, yeah, I'm living my dream far more than what I have imagined for myself. Yeah.
And so I know you've been to a lot of places. You've been to so many amazing places around the world,
Yeah.
and you've had a lot of experiences in various countries. What's your favorite destination?
I would say really that at the end of the day, it would still be Manila.
Really?
Of course, that's our motherland.
Why is that?
Because that's where you have your family, right? That's where you can really say that this is my own place. I can do anything I want, of course, within certain limits, right? And that is where you can really claim that this is the place that prepared you to become what you are today, right? So you have to make it number one among the places that you will say as your favorite places, right? All the rest can just become number two, number three. So if you ask me what is going to be the second country I'd like most, I would say Canada, Toronto, Canada,
Mm-hmm.
because that place has a feel of being a big city and a small town at the same time. It's not too crowded, but yet it's not too scarcely populated. It has a feel of a big city, and yet at the same time, it has a feel of just being in a small place.
I've never been to Toronto, so
Yeah.
what would be your recommendation?
So if you go to Toronto, you go there on a spring or summer because winters can be very long in that place. It's Arctic weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cold. Yeah. But as I said, you don't feel so crowded in just like how you will feel in New York if you get to be assigned to New York because I was in New York for 4 years. And so when I was moved from Toronto to New York, I could really feel the difference. Coming from Toronto, where people can just just go about their daily lives in a very relaxed manner. In New York, when you get there, everybody's in a rush.
Mm-hmm.
You have to walk on Fifth Avenue. You have to walk fast
Mm-hmm.
because they'll bump into you. They'll tell you, "Hey, hey, what are you doing? You're just strolling here." It's a fast life. Coming here, the first thing I notice about LA is that you need a car to move from one place to another, right?
That is so true.
Unlike in New York, where you can take the subway and you can go anywhere just using one ticket because you can transfer from one train to another, take a bus, coming up out of the subway. But here, you need a car. You have a car culture here.
Yes. Going back to your favorite place,
Uh,
Manila, what do you think Filipinos can do to resolve the traffic issues in Manila?
wait. Traffic. You have traffic here too.
Yes.
Like during rush hours on 101, feels like EDSA too. So that's the same question I have for our friends in Los Angeles. What should you do to resolve your traffic problem here?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that we don't have a monopoly of this traffic problem, if at all you can call it a problem. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, these things come along with modernization. That's one of the prices you pay for economic development. Maybe the question is not to solve the problem, but to ease the traffic, right? So I think the solution there is number one to have to have more infrastructure, just like what you have here. You have a lot of road network, right? You have freeways here, but despite that, you still have traffic here, right? Second, I think it matters a lot if your drivers have a high level of personal discipline, observing traffic rules and
Mm-hmm.
regulations. That is, I think, what we sorely lack back home. We need to try to educate our drivers more so that they'll follow traffic rules uh, and regulations as a matter of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm seeing a lot of people still following traffic, the most basic traffic rules regulations like stop and go. They follow it. In Manila, that will never work. They will not follow it. So I think that's the number one problem. A second, so infrastructure we need more.
Mm-hmm.
Second is there has to be more greater discipline among our drivers, right? Wow. And but beyond these two issues, I think there's really nothing that you can do except to on the infrastructure. I think you need to have more mass transit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a solution to introduce more vehicles on the road
Mm-hmm.
because you already have, I think, maxed out the capacity of a road network. So what you need to do is to introduce a more to expand your existing mass transit system, which our government is already doing. If you visit the Philippines now, you will see a lot of mass transits. Our mass transit system has expanded considerably. It's not just EDSA or Avenida. You now have networks. And pretty soon they'll be able to complete the extension of the MRT or LRT all the way up to a certain area in Cavite. And in the north, I think you'll now go all the way down to Del Monte, Bulacan. So it's going to be easier for our people to move within and around Metro Manila. They don't have to use their cars anymore because it's quite very tedious and cumbersome to drive around Metro Manila.
And it's certainly a way for a lot of our kababayans to be closer to their home
Correct.
towns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. True.
And
That's true.
so speaking of hometowns, what would you consider your home? Is it Abra? Is it
Yeah. Of course, that's where I come from. I was
okay?
born and raised in Banged, Abra. I have maintained a mini resort in my hometown, which I visit at least once a year if I am in the Philippines. So that's it's always going to be where my heart will belong. Although I have established residence in Las Piñas, where I have a house, but looking forward to my retirement, I'll be commuting between Las Piñas and Abra and my other properties, probably in Cavite and Quezon. Yeah.
So that's something that we all should look forward to. We should visit,
Yeah, of
ConGen
course.
in
Yeah,
Abra, his resort, right?
yeah. It's a mini resort. We have a pool right in front that we can offer. In fact, if you know Dr. Lito and Lucy Babaran, you know them. Well, they belong to the UERM Alumni Association. They were actually in my hometown in January of 2022. They did the medical mission in three depressed areas to distribute basic medical supplies to the residents of that place. And at the end of their 3-day medical mission, I hosted them in my mini resort. So they know the place. So I would encourage really more of our kababayans who have not been to that part of the Philippines to visit. And if you can, and if it is within your heart to help, do so, because although we are now seeing a higher level of economic development or economic growth in the country, if you go to the rural areas, you will still see pockets of poverty. And you will still see a lot of people living below the poverty line. And it is actually one of my advocacies to be able to really help the rural poor by tapping into the generosity of our Filipino community. And that's what the group of Lucy and Dr. Lito Babaran did when they were there. Yeah, you have to understand that Abra, if you're following the news, was struck by a strong earthquake in 2022, followed by a devastating typhoon, so typhoon 6 months later. So it's back-to-back natural disasters. So in my case, and my high school batchmates, we raised funds to help those who are victims of both natural disasters. And I'm appealing to our fellow Filipinos, including you, and our fellow other Filipinos here. If you have the chance and you have the capacity, please do not hesitate to lend or send a helping hand.
What would be your advice for fellow Filipinos who are residents of Los Angeles and Southern California to help and make our home country, the Philippines, a better place to live?
Actually, I don't need to remind them or to tell them what they should be doing because they are already doing it. I mean, a lot of you are already doing it. What do I mean by that? You are already sending a lot of assistance to our motherland and to our fellow Filipinos. If you're only sending to your families back home, that's okay. We have what we call the economic trickle-down effect. Whatever you send creates a ripple effect in the Philippine economy. In fact, the foreign exchange remittance coming from the overseas Filipino community is averaging, as of this moment, $27 billion annually. And much of that is still coming from the United States of America. And that is why we are very thankful to you because it would seem, based on these figures, that you continue to remain very much attached and concerned about the welfare of our fellow Filipinos, right? So I don't need to be asking you, please help our country because you are already doing that. And we are very thankful for that.
What would be your fondest memory of your stay here in Los Angeles?
One of my fondest would be having met you.
Oh, really? Thank you.
And of course,
Likewise, ConGen.
yeah, and well, I would say that it would be having been able to establish a Philippine honorary consul in Las Vegas. So you will see that beginning in October of last year, we have opened a Philippine honorary consulate in Las Vegas. The Philippine consulate in Los Angeles was established in 1947. So it's been around for quite some time. But Filipinos in Las Vegas, in Southern Nevada, Filipinos in Arizona, for a very simple consular service, they have to drive all the way down to Los Angeles to have a document consularized, to have an SPA notarized because it has to be used in the Philippines, to apply for a travel document and many other consular needs. So with the opening of the Philippine Honorary Consulate office in Las Vegas, they don't have to come here anymore. They can do it right there. So it, makes life much easier for our fellow Filipinos there. And of course, the other fond memory I have here is having made a lot of friends in the community, which is a very dynamic community, very much active, very much involved. Not just in making their stay journey here in America as memorable and comfortable as possible, but also to help us promote everything that's beautiful about our country. I have already mentioned it or said this in other occasions, but although we are the officially designated representatives of our country here, actually each and every one of you in the community is a representation of our country and people. You are actually our informal ambassadors of Filipino culture.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you do, anything that you say at home, at work, in the park, in church, in parties, people see you and make an opinion or form an opinion about not just who you are, but about our community in general, right? And they can see and they should see that the Filipino, through you and many others, that the Filipino actually is a very economically productive people, that the Filipino is so hardworking, so talented, and so God-fearing and so caring of their families. So that's how they will see us.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we thank you because that way you are making our lives easier too here at the consulate, right? Because one of our responsibilities is to promote greater understanding and awareness of Filipino culture. By ourselves, it'll be very difficult to really do this job because there are just so very few of us here. But because of the presence of the 1.3 to 1.4 million strong Filipinos here, our job becomes easier, right? Not just in terms of promoting Filipino culture, but also in terms of promoting good political and economic relations with our host country.
What would be your advice
Mhm.
for the next Consul General?
Well, I think I will have to give whoever will replace me all the flexibility do whatever he or she would like to do in terms of projects and services for the Filipino community. My advice is to be very open and transparent and friendly,
Mm-hmm.
because the moment you are, then work at the consulate is not work anymore, but pure enjoyment, because you have a support, strong support coming from the community to be for you to be able to pursue your projects as the head of post of this large Philippine consulate.
I would like to personally thank you for
Yeah.
your service
Mhm.
for our fellow Filipinos and Filipino Americans here in Southern California.
Mhm.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Philippine Consul General Edgar Badajos.
Maraming salamat, Mick. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank you.
Don't miss out. Want to be seen? Want to be heard? Want lots of exposure? Ask us how.